Well, hello there. I just beat you into the shop today because I was so excited to come to work. You know, it's an exciting day. Oh wait, I need to sell that a little more. It's an exciting day here. Cars are people too. I can't talk that fast. I'm not a fast talker. I'm not even a talker. I deserve that. Okay. I was just writing a list down here for Birdardo. I'm having trouble with the name. Birdardo. That's his name. His name is Birdardo, but it's hard to say. I didn't name him. So I'm just gonna shorten that to Bird. Or we could do Birdo. I don't really love that. Bird. We're just gonna say Bird. The Bird, okay? We're gonna be working on the Bird today. And you might think by saying that it's maybe a Ford Thunderbird. Or maybe it's Pontiac Firebird. Or maybe I'm just hungry for chicken. I don't know what you're thinking, because I can't read your mind, much like your wife. That's really the only thing we share in common, but, you know, it's something. Like it got slightly awkward in the room. All right, we're gonna move on. Working on the Bird. Now, we left off last week working on the Dustang. We're gonna get back to the Dustang this week as well, but I've got some bad weather coming in. Made me think of another song, but anyway, if I'm gonna get a chance to test and drive the Bird, then I need to do it while it's sunny out, because the next couple of days it's not going to be. And then I can be holed up in the shop here and work on some other things. So with that, I feel like I need some coffee before I get going. Fine. I'll show you the Bird and then we'll get some coffee. All right, it's right over here. Just turn around. All right, well, here's the Bird. I don't know why I have a marker. We'll just throw that over there. It's a 91-ish GMC Jimmy, or did they call them Blazers? Was that the era where they called both the Chevrolet and the GMC Blazers, which made it very confusing? I don't know. This truck has been, it's been upgraded. It's got a 1992-ish vintage Corvette LT-1 under the hood. I'm not sure what transmission is in it. Don't know. It's the shifting kind that, shifts by itself. We've got, I don't know what you'd consider these. Maybe Camaro style wheels of the 90s. It's yellow. The Bird is yellow. It's a yellow Bird. And it's yellow underneath. The gas tank is yellow. The air conditioning dryer is yellow. The brake booster is yellow. The frame is yellow. The control arms are yellow. The leaf springs are yellow. You just name it, it's yellow. So the Bird here is in, you want to see the inside? Here's a short view of the inside. It's the tweed. It's the 90s tweed interior, and it's in impeccable condition. It's got a subwoofer in the back. It's got big speakers down by the footwell. It's got a B&M shifter. It's The dash is tweed. There's no plastic showing. It's all fabric and it's all glorious. You know, I kind of love it. I kind of do. It's considered kind of old school. But the level of craftsmanship is amazing. So, why is it here, you ask? Or maybe I asked the question for you because I knew that's what you were thinking. Maybe I can read your mind. Dwell on that for a minute. Well, it's not running very well. It hesitates. It idles fine, though you can kind of hear it kind of, it's not dying, but you know, hesitating while it idles some. But you put any throttle into it out on the street, it just acts like it doesn't have fuel or it doesn't have spark. Those are the two things it probably doesn't have. Why it doesn't have it, we don't know. Is it because it's losing fuel pressure? Is it because the OptiSpark system is not sending the sparkles where it needs to go at the rate or the amount? Does it have the bird flu? I would say so. We're going to figure out, hopefully, what the problem is. The first thing I'm going to do is put a fuel pressure gauge on it, crank it up, toot it around, see if it drops when you get in the throttle. If everything is good, well, we'll move on from there. But I feel like that's or a place to start, at least. Well, why not check some things off the list? So glad you're here. We'll just kind of see what happens this week with this truck and then the Dustang and whatever else, you know. Maybe we'll, I don't know. I was going to say something funny, but I didn't. All right, let's actually go get some coffee, and then we'll start working on this. Okay, so I went to check the fuel pressure. And there's supposed to be a fuel pressure port or on the rail, a port to be able to check the fuel pressure at the back of the motor. Here, you know, these are the fuel rails. This is the crossover. You can see you've got fuel line feed and return, but they're kind of an aftermarket braided, and they just run right in to the rail. So apparently they did away with the port. So I decided to trace those fuel lines just to kind of see where they went, see if there's another place I could, you know, plug in or make my own port. So they're actually running forward down here by the power steering. And just as a side, they do make some adapters that come with this kit to be able to, you know, if you have a hard line and a soft line, you could kind of splice into it and do it that way. But I decided to crawl on the ground here, you know, because I don't have a lift. Well, my lift is kind of occupied. But I'm going to unoccupy it because don't even know if you're going to be able to see this. But if you look right here, this is where the fuel lines come in, and they're just, you know, clamped to a hard line. That's all they are. So I could tie into it there. But while I was looking, let me get some light in here. Pity's sake. Oh, there's the light. So now you can see even more clearly. the fuel lines coming down here. But then I kind of lifted my view up to right here. I don't know if you can see that. That's a drip of antifreeze. And it's just, there's another one right there. If you ever see a drip of antifreeze kind of hanging down here underneath the water pump, well, probably your water pump's leaking. So you might think, well, what the heck does that have to do with a, rough running issue? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's stand up because I don't feel like laying on the floor anymore, and you're not going to be able to see it anyway very well. Underneath the fuel pump, which is right here, is essentially the distributor, or the electronic ignition, or as Chevrolet likes to call it, OptiSpark. Yeah, it's a fancy name that means mounted in a bad location. Literally, that's what it means. So what happens is the water pump starts seeping and dripping, and the OptiSpark is right underneath it, and, because it makes sense, the OptiSpark is very sensitive to heat and water, which is, of course, why you mounted on the front of the engine under the water pump. I'm a huge fan of engineers and whatnot, but this was just kind of this was a Friday afternoon solution, I think. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to get it on the lift so I can get a better look at it because this truck's so low. So let's move the Dustang. I can work on the carburetor on that in the next stall over. We'll put this on the lift. Look at it. Excuse me. Had some food in my tooth. And then we'll just double check it, because if it is the OptiSpark, it's labor intensive, and I'll want to communicate that to the customer before we just go diving in. He's going to say yes because it's not running right, and so when you do the OptiSpark, you also need to do the wires and probably the plugs too. So it's kind of a comprehensive solution job, whatnot, and so forth and so on, and jibberty jabber, words, more words. Okay, so let me do the shop shuffle, and then we'll take a peek together when we can actually stand on our 2 feet and look at it. All right, we may as well take a look at this beauty since we're, under here. You can see in the 90s, whenever, they spent a ton of time painting things yellow. The exhaust is a stainless exhaust, which actually kind of makes me wonder. This one seems like it's moved this way a little more than it should be, but anyway, got its O2 sensors, little paint coming off here, but honestly, for the age of the vehicle, everything. Look at this. Everything. Bell housing, cross members, transmission, drive shaft. Yeah, this was quite the build. Engine itself, block. So we're not really under here to see the bird's yellow parts. We're here. I need a light. Okay. To just get another look. Oh, look at that, a little skid plate. So we can see the drips. Oh yeah, look at that. See, so there's the OptiSpark, and you can even see some coolant dripping off of one of the wires. See what we can see on this side. Oh, yeah. So you can see, if I can get the light in here, it will make our life happy. Okay, you can see there, that right up there where the wires are going into is the OptiSpark, and you can actually see coolant dripping off the bottom of it. So what we have is a water pump going bad, which happens on these LT-1 engines. It drips down on the very sensitive, essentially distributor, OptiSpark unit, and it doesn't like it. And the engine starts running badly. Well, look, they painted the wheel wells. I mean, somebody spent some coin on this truck back in the day. So I am going to get this back on the ground. I don't know why. When I put some vehicles up on the lift, I break into cold sweats. You know, you see all those videos of vehicles falling off of lifts. Normally because they've changed the balance. You know, they removed a heavy component, it isn't balanced properly, and it just falls off. But even when I do everything correctly, you're still putting a very valuable piece of art or whatever, and you're suspending it high in the air. So I just break into the cold sweats every time, for no reason really, other than probably nervous, I guess. But this thing lifts my wife's Navigator L. That thing is a pig. When I say pig, I mean it weighs a lot of pounds. Picks it up, no problem, but it's just something unnatural seeing something that large up that high that just makes me nervous. So one of these days, I am going to supplement this lift, which I love and does certain things very well, with a 4-post lift that you can drive on. A project like this, for instance, it's a water pump. I want to get under it. There's no need to have the wheels off the ground. Just drive it up on there. Sometimes, you know, you're doing brake work and whatnot. The wheels off the ground is what you need. So anyway, that's just a little glimpse into the, you know, inner plannings of my brain. So, all right. Well, we're going to reach out to the owner. Well, get an estimate together, I guess. Reach out to the owner, get his okay, which I fully suspect will happen because what good is it if it doesn't run? And then we'll go from there. And then while we wait for parts, we'll move on over to the Dustang. It'll be great. But right now, it's lunchtime. So grab yourself a sandwich, and then we'll get back to work. Hey, I'm just draining the coolant here. Sorry, texting my wife because it's our anniversary today, you know? What better way to express your love to your, you know, life partner than a text? I just feel like there's not much more romantic than that. Okay, we're gonna walk over to the Mustang because I didn't really tell you what was happening there. You were busy anyway, you know, grabbing a snack from the fridge. So I'm draining the coolant in preparation of replacing the water pump, OptiSpark, plugs and wires on this. But while I wait for those parts to come in, I'll let this drain and we'll just chat a little bit about the Dustang over there. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Perfect. All right, well, yeah, come on over here. Actually, I was texting, because we're discussing where we're gonna eat out tonight for our anniversary. So, you know, we already wished each other a happy anniversary. It's fine. And just to dispel your preconceived notion of what a huge romantic I am, I didn't get her anything for our anniversary. So you might think, sir, you are standing on dangerous ground. It's a minefield. Don't do it. But I didn't get her anything. She didn't get me anything either, because we're not gift people. We don't get each other gifts. And well, I mean, not never, just there's no time of obligation that we give gifts. We give gifts for the fun of it, you know? If I see something, I'm like, oh, she would love that. I get it. But just because it's her birthday or Christmas or Valentine's Day or anniversary, it doesn't mean I'm gonna just spend money. What we like to do is spend money on experiences together. So like eating out at a fancy restaurant. We have a good time doing that. That is fun for us and just as expensive as flowers. And she can buy her own flowers. I know. You're like, how can you possibly say those things? Well, this works for our relationship, and we're both very happy. We've had many discussions about this, and she's happy that I don't buy her expensive things that she doesn't really need and can buy herself if she wants. So anyway, yeah, each to his own. So let's get back to the Dustang here. I don't know how we got off on that nonsense. What you saw me do is remove these 4 screws and this, you know, thing, shaft for the air cleaner, and kind of twist this top out of the way so I could get at the bowl. Well, you can see the little black of the gasket here. So the gasket, basically, it's got 3 little holes in it here. Other than that, this whole square is like a solid piece. And then it comes out here around, you know, the opening, venturi. Technical, more words. So what I think was happening, why this was overflowing and pushing out of these vent tubes, was because there wasn't room. Basically, the float in there was, there's a piece on the back of it that was hung up on the gasket. And so it wouldn't, the bowl filled, but it wouldn't come up to close the little valve, little needle in there to prevent more fuel coming in. It just was kind of hung up in a down position. So I just cut out a little piece, this little piece, right about there. Kind of where the end of the float is, where it was hanging up. And then I ran the car a little bit, and I got none of the fluid coming out. Now, so this is the thing. If you remember, I idled the engine and warmed it up, but it wouldn't accept any throttle input. So your first go-to when your carburetor does not take input and wants to die is to check your accelerator pump. What the accelerator pump does, most of you know, is when you roll into the throttle or even mash the gas, it puts extra fuel, it just pumps an extra shot of gasoline down the throat to give it the boost it needs to respond. It also works when you're starting the engine cold. You give the pedal a couple pumps, squirts a couple shots in there, engine starts up, idles, everything works. So I'm getting fuel in there when it idles. The accelerator pump is working, yet when you go to throttle or even slowly go, like very slowly go to throttle, it wants to die. It makes me think, well, the second thing you might look at is your fuel filter, but we know the fuel filter is clear because it's new, and I just cleared the one up by the carburetor. Well, it's just a little screen in here. If all of those things are working and it's still acting up, basically these things are just like, it all runs on vacuum and passages and valves and balls and all that kind of thing. It's very possible that there's something wrong with this carburetor. So the things that it was doing before it was rebuilt as well. It's leaking less fuel on the inside of the carburetor than it was. This is the thing. I got this car and it had been sitting for 20 years. They knew they had a fuel problem. They had a fuel leak in the line, which of course we found and repaired. It's very possible that 20, 25 years ago, someone tried to rebuild this carburetor and because it wasn't working properly, before I even had it rebuilt. New gaskets, new whatever. It's doing the exact same thing it was doing before it was rebuilt. So it makes me think there's a bigger issue with the carburetor. So instead of fighting with this Autolite, that is, what do you want to say, old. I know we've spent some money on it, but I am going to replace this carburetor with a Holley 2-barrel. They make some very, very good alternatives. It will make more power. It's modern, more reliable. It'll have an electric choke on it instead of this one that's fed by a tube from the exhaust. And it's gonna be better. So that's coming shortly, and we're gonna put that on and see what the engine likes after that. So I just feel like the amount of time we're spending on this carburetor to get it working, it's not very many hours before you can just buy a Holley carburetor that's going to run better than this ever ran when it was new. So that's the choice. We could have done that from the start, but there was always the chance, and it's old cars. It's old cars. We do the best that we can. So yeah, we'll put that Holley on whenever that comes in, and then I'm gonna start pulling this apart while I wait for the parts to come in, and then we'll just do the next thing. That'll be good. So you can see also the Roadrunner, and I didn't show you this because, you know, tell you the truth, some of the things I do, it's just so random, and I'm just jumping here and there and doing this and that. I don't, you know, you're busy, you got stuff to do. I just don't take you in on everything. But this car is going to the painters. He's going to start dressing up under the engine bay here, get it painted, paint some of these components. And in preparation of that, I put a new hose, low pressure hose on because it was leaking. And that way they can clean it up and it won't leak. And you know, you can paint this black. All of this can be cleaned and you won't be getting any more leaking happening on it. So I'm probably going to take some of this hardware out, label it as to what it is, so that it doesn't get lost to and from the painters. And then we're gonna slap this hood back on, put it on the trailer, and get it over there. So that's also happening tomorrow. And then that car will be gone for a bit of time. I don't know how long, you know, but it doesn't matter because the engine is at the engine rebuilders getting rebuilt, and it'll be a couple months. It's fine. I've got more projects coming in, so that I'm not going to tell you about because they're a surprise. Yeah, everything's a surprise. I don't even know what's going on half the time. So yeah, I'm going to start on the bird. The bird's the word. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that. Sounds like something my dad would have said. I'm my dad. Well, there are worse people to be, so. Love you, Dad. Anyway, I better get busy. All right, so I've got a little show and tell time with this water pump. What is with me in names of things? OptiSpark. I don't know. My brain only has so much information it can keep at one time. I've got to flush some of it out. So, okay, so I've got the water pump out. First, we will take a look at the weep hole. It is clear that that's where it was coming out of, which would indicate, you know, a bad water pump. Not something that's strange. It's probably as old as the build is. So, you know, I don't know. I can't do math. You know, 34 years, maybe 30 years. Probably not that many miles, but you know, time goes on, it goes bad. You can see here the where it was running down the OptiSpark. So, I mean, there's just moisture. Some of this is just from when I pulled it off, but you can see over time what has happened here and the moisture that has damaged the unit. That would be my 100% guess. So, let me show you the new OptiSpark. Oh, look, it looks just like the old one, except it's not old, and it's shiny. So you can see on the back the gear that fits into the engine. It should have, hang on here, it should have like a double tooth on it. Oh, there it is, right there. I don't know if you can see that in the bad light, but there's a double tooth. That's so it can be clocked correctly and not lose time. So it's not like it's, you know, you don't have to worry about putting the distributor in and messing up the timing. So this is the new water pump. So I'll have to fit all the pieces onto it. All the hose, you know, sensor, all that kind of stuff. So that is what I am going to do next is, well, actually take this OptiSpark off. I'm going to replace the wires. So it'll be a little bit tedious because I'm going to run one at a time. I don't like how these are routed. They've got some heat shielding on them, but this one's routed like above the header, and I don't know. It just looks a little awkward to me. We're going to see if we can less awkwardize it with the new wires. So I'll work on that while I'm doing it all. So anyway, hang out. We're going to cue the music, and I'm going to just hammer down. Okay. Well, that didn't take long. You know, a couple hours. So I can't start it and check for leaks and anything like that because I have to do something that I didn't tell you about earlier. No, don't look at me like that. I wasn't hiding it from you. I just, you know, I was busy. We were doing other things. I've got the whole Dustang on my mind, you know, solving that little riddle. You know, whatever. Insert excuse here. So come over here on this side and I will kind of show you, well, just stay there a minute. Just don't move. Don't move. Oh, you can't move. Right. So, the customer supplied me with, see, this is an oil pressure gauge, as you can see. I have another one that looks like it that is a water temperature gauge. He wants these mounted up here on the hood, like this. Well, come over here. You can see it better from over here. So you can see, you know, kind of how both of them are going to go. I have already marked on the tape, so I'm going to mount them with these rivet nuts in the hood. So I need to drill holes for those, and then I've got to drill like 3/4 holes for, one is for the, well, it's under the hood now because I hooked the other end up. Well, I'll just show you. Why not? This is a show and tell. This is a show and tell moment. Okay. So this line here, this braided line, is plugged into a port just right above the oil filter, and it's going to go wherever the hole ends up under the hood here for that gauge. The other gauge is this water temp gauge. Now, its temp sender is going in the block, which I have also already fitted a port down below on this side to accept that. But I have to feed that one up through the hood and then down this way because the wire on the gauge is permanently affixed to the gauge. So it has to be kind of threaded through this way. So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to drill holes in this perfectly good hood and get this hooked up so that I can fill this engine back up with coolant and get it cranked up, check for leaks down at my new fitting, check for an oil leak at that new fitting, check for water leaks at the water pump, make sure everything is tight, the hose clamps, all of that is good. But I got to get the gauges in first. So let's just get started on that, and so we can, you know, I'd like to hear the truck run. I'd like to drive it up and down the road and see, you know, see it run right. So, yeah, this is a great truck. Great truck. All right. Well, what are you standing there for? Let's get to work. You can grab the apple juice, and then you can sit over there and watch me do this real quick. right. I'm just closing the door here. Wow, isn't this a beautiful day? No, it's just a little cloudy. Wish you could smell the fresh air of it. Mainly because I've been running the Bird and you know, kind of stinks. And smells good at the same time. There's probably a reason I'm forgetful. I just can't remember what it is. Okay, so let's stand right there a minute for me. Stay there, don't move. Okay. You can move if you want. I just don't know how you're gonna do it. Okay. I'm just checking clearances here. Beautiful. You can see we've got the gauges on the hood. I just kind of wanted to see what it looked like, you know, with the hood down. So I've got the oil pressure coming through. It's double grommeted because there's two walls to this hood. So there's a grommet on the inside wall and then this wall here. And yeah, you can kind of see oil pressure, water temp still a little up because I had it idling as I was filling it with coolant. Yeah, you know, gauges on the hood are a certain look. And I don't know that I would have done it. The owner really wanted to, and I don't hate it. I really don't. I just, yeah, it's from behind the wheel, it's actually super clear to look at. You know, it makes sense if you're sitting behind the wheel. I mean, look at how big those gauges are. You can't miss them. So, yeah, it's kind of cool. What else? What else was I going to talk about? You know, I don't know. I forgot again. Let me open the hood and I'll show you how I attached all of these. All of these cables and whatnot. So you can see, I'm going to open the hood slowly and you can kind of see how those, they just pull up like that. There's no huge bends in them or anything. There's the grommets on that side and they just run down there. So, so far no leaks or anything. I've got plug wire over there. I need to wrap a little bit more to get it off of the header. But other than that, that's done. So, but not. Next week, stay tuned. or schedule your nap time next week for installing a tachometer on the steering column. I just unpackaged this. I haven't even tried to set it on the steering column to see how I would do it. But I think he wants it something, you know, along the lines of that, you know, or maybe that. Since the speedometer doesn't work, we'll put it in front of the speedometer. How about that? So we'll install that next week because we're all out of time on the Bird because I've got to make more headway on the Dustang. I know, we're bouncing back and forth like ping pong balls, but you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. So I really need to see how far I can get on solving the fuel problem on the Dustang. So let's dive into that. Hopefully we come to some sort of conclusion. If we don't, there's a beer/apple juice fridge right over there. We can just sit down and think about it. Oh no, I'm not joking. We'll think about it. We will think long and hard. But in the meantime, let's do some action, and then we'll do some thinking after that. Or we'll do it the other way. So you pick. Okay, I'll do work. Okay, so as you can see, I was removing the old, wow, thank you, carburetor. What would I do without you? I don't know. I would never know what anything is called if you just didn't tell me what it was. So, got that off, but I noticed as I was messing with it and test fitting the new Holly, you see all this like seepage right here? If you look right here, while I was tightening it down, you know, I could see kind of like fluid squishing out. Well, what that immediately alerted me to, and I don't know why I didn't see it when I was working on it before, actually, it may be because I had been spraying carb cleaner around looking for vacuum leaks, which I didn't find any that way, but this didn't dry out like brake fluid would. So I decided to lift this off of here. And you can see on the back side, this is where the PCV comes in. And well, clearly just looking at that gasket, we had, well, vacuum leaks. There's just no way. I mean, that gasket is saturated. We've got oil down there. You can see the moisture down in the intake. So I'm going to clean that out and put a new gasket on it. Anyway, I don't have a lot of confidence in this carburetor anymore, even though part of the problem could be a vacuum leak on the spacer, which I'm going to clean up anyway. Part of me, and you're watching my brain like turn slowly, part of me wants to reseal this spacer, this PCV spacer, throw the old carb on there just to see. Maybe it responds better. I'm a curious person by nature. I might do that. Just because, you know, let's see. Why not? It might be fun. So let me clean that up, put the old carb back on. Just takes a couple minutes, and see what happens. It'll be easy to see right away, and then we can put the Holly on and see what the difference is there. So let me get to it. Okay, well, we've got the old carburetor back on with the new spacer seal, and I cleaned up the PCV valve. Let's just see if it makes any difference, just because we're curious people. Let's see if there's any fuel left in there. Whoops. Let's see, what could be the issue? Oh yeah, the battery. Thanks for pointing that out before I went to all the trouble of turning the key. You're so helpful. Honestly, I don't know why I keep you around. Let's see. Okay. All right, let's see what happens. Okay, so I've got my fan going here so I don't get carbon monoxide poisoning. Maybe that's why my memory is so bad, because too many fumes. Probably not. Can't be it. So I also changed the PCV valve just to be safe, because if you remember, all of that oil just pooling in the intake area there under that spacer gasket, it can be an indication of a PCV valve stuck open. So I just thought, well, they're $1.84 or something. Let's just put it in there. So we've got that hooked up, we've got this hooked up. So I've got my exhaust fan going. So now let's crank it up and see if, essentially the only change we've made is the spacer gasket and the PCV valve. See what happens, I guess. It still doesn't seem to be running as smoothly. Oh, shoot. Okay. Well, our old buddy, Mr. Autolite, has struck again, and it's spewing gasoline out of the vent tubes, just pouring it out. So I've officially given up on this carburetor. I'm done with it. I got no more time. No more time for this foolishness. But, you know, we had to try. If you remember, I said this was just an experiment, but obviously I have placed my hopes upon it because of my massive crushing disappointment in my soul that it didn't work. So let's just stop once again, cue the music, and put the Holly on here and cross both our fingers and our eyes and whatever else we got. So I'll be right back. Okay, with the fan running again for exhaust purposes, I'm a little nervous. I'll just be honest with you. You want it to work, right? And you think it will, but I haven't hooked up the linkage yet to the pedal, but we'll just crank it up and just kind of see what it does. Okay. My gosh. Why is it dumping so much fuel? What is happening? It is like really dumping fuel. Let me see if I can see what's going on in the bowl. Okay, the bowl is like really full. So let's adjust that down. Oh, I guess I didn't have the whatchamacallit, timing vacuum advance attached, but still, that is really full. I'm gonna screw it down a little bit. It's adjusted all the way down as far as I can tell. Wow. All right, let's give it another try. It's not liking something. I think it's flooded right now. All right, it's going down a little bit. Wow. Look at all of that fuel. What is happening? What is happening? It's almost acting like there's too much fuel pressure, which does not seem likely. It's just a mechanical fuel pump. I feel like it's dumping a lot of fuel, but why? Why would two different carburetors do that? Why indeed? Okay, well, I think I have diagnosed another problem. It may have been the problem from the beginning. Well, it definitely was a problem from the beginning, ever since we put this fuel pump on. So if you remember in another episode with the old fuel pump, I had the car running. But it wouldn't accept throttle, all of that, vacuum leaks, which we have subsequently found. But now it is, even with this new carburetor on, it is dumping fuel in there, prodigious quantities, way more. So if it's doing that with the old Autolite and it's doing something very similar, maybe not so bad with the Holly, we've got another problem, and it's not a carburetor problem. It's probably a fuel pressure problem. Blah, 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 blah. I'm getting excited. It's like detective work, you know, when you just are narrowing things down and things aren't making sense, and all of a sudden, click, we'll see. So if you remember, we replaced this fuel pump with just stock, whatever. I can't remember the brand actually now at this time, but it was just a direct fit replacement. Well, I've hooked up a fuel pressure gauge to my line from the fuel pump to the carburetor, because all of that extra fuel tells me I'm getting too much fuel. So the pressure has dropped and is continually dropping. Right now it's at whatever, 5, which actually I would be fine with if it was running at 5. But and I'm not going to start it again because it's just dumping so much fuel. I'm gonna wash the cylinders down, and it's not running. I saw it. You'll just have to trust me. This gauge was fluctuating between 10 and 15 psi. We should be between like 7 and 10 or 5 and 7. Well, not even 10, probably 5 and 7, somewhere in there. That's what these carburetors like. I don't know what's going on with this thing, but it is massively adding fuel. So there's a couple of things you can do. One, you could put a fuel pressure regulator in the line, which I've done on carburetors before. It's a nice way to just make sure you're getting what you need. But honestly, if you just have the right fuel pump, you don't need it. It's not going to give more than it's designed to give. I don't know why this one is. It's apparently defective. I'm gonna have to find the receipt for it and see exactly what the deal is. And so what I'm gonna do, since fuel pump is a fairly easy thing to swap out, I'm gonna order another fuel pump and put that in, and I'll just leave my fuel pressure gauge hooked up, see what kind of fuel pressure I get immediately from that one. This poor engine is just, all of my starting and trying to diagnose, it's just been dumping fuel down the carburetor. So old cars, new parts, made who knows where, not in spec. So this is a great example of trying to diagnose a problem, and for instance, the old fuel pump gave up, so I put a new one on there, which created a problem that I didn't know about. So I just moved on, and now I'm circling back around to it. This is just part of the adventure and frustration, I will fully admit. But we'll come back to I'm gonna get that ordered. We'll come back to this next week, hopefully with a victory. I really would love a win on this car. I feel like I'm not getting enough of them. So, but I keep hopping between this car and the other projects, so it's not like 100% working on this one. So anyway, we're gonna just put a pause on the Dustang before I start hating it. We don't want to hate. We want to love our cars. Well, I'm beginning to hate this one because it's fighting me. But it's not its fault. It's whatever stupid fuel pump manufacturer's fault. So yeah, I was really wanting to have a kind of a happy conclusion this week with this Mustang, but it's not to be. I can't force it, and it won't be forced. And on that bombshell, on that huge, crushingly, disappointingly, unfulfilling bombshell, we're going to just close it up. I just ran out of time this week to come to any major conclusion on the Dustang. Thankfully, the bird behaved so far. We'll find out next week if any leaks pop up or anything like that. But other than that, we'll get the tack put on the bird and get it out on the highway. That'll be fun. You can come along with that. And then swap out that fuel pump on the Dustang, and with the gauge still hooked up, see what kind of fuel pressure I get. I just ordered it from O'Reilly's, just an OE stock. The one that's on there, I ordered from Summit. So, this happens. I'm just very curious to see if I can find a pump that actually pumps within the pressure range that my carburetor wants, because I don't want to have to hook up a fuel pressure regulator. It's just another piece of complexity. I don't need it. So that car has run its whole life with no fuel pressure regulator, just fine until now. So let's see if we can get it running the way it likes to run. Anyway, oh man, what a long week. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I could mean it in a negative, what difference does it make? But I really don't. I'm tired. So, but I am excited for next week, and the adventure continues. Super glad you're here, and that's it. I'm going to just sit here and I'm going to think. Okay? We talked about it earlier. Now's the time for sitting and thinking. No talking necessary. So I'm going to stop right now. But I am really glad that you're here. So I'm going to stop right now, though. It's thinking time.